I also run and co-founder and creator of an online entrepreneurship platform dedicated to young people 18 to 25 for legal reasons, that's dedicated to being able to give them a bit of a roadmap as well as community and all the resources they may need to be able to enter into the entrepreneurial world.
Welcome to Elimj ChatShow, a platform where we get to empower our community and where we get to invite professionals and business owners to come and support us and tell us how they can empower our community. So in today's episode, I'll be having Alex Joseph. He is a young aspiring entrepreneur. He deals with mind acceleration, and today he's coming to talk to us about how to inspire innovation, creativity as an entrepreneur. So he's just going to tell us more about how to become an entrepreneur and how he became an entrepreneur, and a couple of things we need to look forward to, like if we're experiencing one or two things, how do we deal with it? So, my darling, stay tuned and keep on watching. Also, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do, so you don't get to miss any content we release on this very platform. And keep on watching. Hi, Alex.
Hi there, Ailey. How's it going?
I'm good, thank you. Welcome to Elimj ChatShow.
It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much for accepting our invite. It's always a delightful moment each time our invite gets accepted.
Yeah, it's a wonderful platform that you have, and in all honesty, I'm very honoured to be a part of it. So, my deepest gratitude, and I'm happy to be able to share this space.
Thank you very much once again, Alex. So today we'll be talking about how to inspire, innovate, creativity as an entrepreneur. Because, we've just nearly started coming out of the pandemic, and a lot of people out there are seeking to, start their own business, start as an entrepreneur. And you, as an entrepreneur, I would love to seize this opportunity to have a chat with you, and you can talk us through about how your journey is going. So firstly, I'd like to ask you, can you tell our audience more about yourself, please?
Sure. So I specialise and work in the wonderful world of cognitive development, specifically mind acceleration. It's something rather new in its terminology, but is very much some of the most advanced in what we do on the planet, luckily. So, very much the forward curve. But as an individual, I specialize in being able to accelerate one's mind on a holistic basis through a mix of different topics and subjects, all relevant. So that's anything from psychology, neuroscience, through to philosophy, metaphysics, just to name a few. And they all play a relevant part in the human makeup, what makes us, our understanding of others, and the world for that matter. So that's really one of the areas I specialize in. I also run and co-founder and creator of an online entrepreneurship platform dedicated to young people 18 to 25 for legal reasons, that's dedicated to being able to give them a bit of a roadmap as well as community and all the resources they may need to be able to enter into the entrepreneurial world. As I'm sure many entrepreneurs and fellow watching right now, it's often quite an overwhelming experience when you really enter into that world. You think, great, entrepreneurship sounds wonderful. Where do I start? So we've created this as a means of giving people a roadmap and a community to be able to network, grow that network, and really build. Wow,
that was quite fully packed. Alex, what motivated you to tap into the sector of a mind accelerator? So are you able to share with us that what was that experience? Tell us, we want to know the secret.
Yes, so it really reached a pinnacle upon moving house for the second time. I lived in a village, I lived in a town, and then I lived in a city, and then I entered the world of full-time work. And I'd sat there and I thought to myself, okay, after the last year and a half, maybe the month leading up to leaving full-time employment, thinking, wow, there really is so much more to life. How much more could I be than what I am right now? Based on the already seemingly profound self-development I'd done from where I come from. So I sat there and I thought to myself, wow, okay, we really are potentially these limitless beings as human beings. How much more of that can I explore? That was really my stepping stone. That was a kind of the light bulb moment in having to say, okay, it's time to take that leap. And I followed my gut, I followed my intuition, that screaming voice inside of me saying I needed to do this. And it hasn't failed me since.
Wow. Thank you, Alex. That was beautiful. Alex, you just mentioned you specialize in people's mind.
Yes.
That sounds so fascinating. As a young entrepreneur, how does your mind play on you?
It's really rather interesting. The mind's actually a very, it's a very holistic thing in its sense. But specifically, the work I do is centered around, the core of everything really in our potential is our identity and the way we identify, or don't for that matter. So the way we look at the mind is that humans seem to have two within one, right? We have the shell, which is this sort of shell identity that people incorporate, which is kind of an amalgamation of every bit of conditioning that they've had, right? They've grown up in a political family or a religious family or a family that has certain views around, let's say, gender, race, gay marriage, whatever it may be. A lot of it is you grow up and you adopt those same sort of views, for example. It's often quite geographical. And it's if you're raised in a certain country or nation within the Middle East, certain predominant religions you're going to adopt, per se, maybe. More so than, let's say, if you grow up in a certain state in America.
Wow. Good. Thank you very much for that. So Alex, you've just mentioned about mind acceleration. Can you throw more light into that? I really want to understand it better.
Yeah. So our minds are essentially sort of rather large computers, right? They work in a similar sort of way, where, let's say, you've got an old computer that has old downloads, hasn't been updated in a while. It's not going to function as well as, let's say, a brand new iOS Mac, maybe freshly out that year. Its processing power is going to be a lot faster. It's going to have a lot more capacity, lots more storage. Our minds are the same. We have these two computers within our minds. We have our conscious mind, the one that you're possibly perceiving what I'm saying with now. And then we have the unconscious mind, which is recording 24/7. So when we work with people, it's really tapping into the unconscious. When I train or speak to people through this training, I don't speak to their conscious mind, I speak to their unconscious, because I know it's listening. So that's really where the power of suggestion comes into play, especially. Where, in a lot of therapeutic techniques, they often use suggestion. However, it's now through often better quality questions being asked, which is really a kind of a point of change. So it's change development masters, which is the way that I train people in that sense within that. Change being able to start working through a bit of this conditioning that relies on our conscious mind, unpacking, identifying points of development, which is then when we move to shift into that.
Wow. Alex, may I ask, how did you get into this field? Can you take us through what inspired you to get into this very sector of mind acceleration, sector?
Yeah, I suppose I've always been a very curious individual growing up. A little bit of a lone wolf, a wanderer, you could say, growing up, always kind of looking outside of the generic ways of life, I suppose, but not really understanding them. In school, for example, a lot of kids often find school boring, but for me, it was never just the fact that I didn't want to go to school. I was able to identify systematic issues that just weren't working, not only for myself, but other kids. I was extremely self-aware rather quickly as a young individual through having gone through the various trials and tribulations. But ultimately, it brought me to a point of just being curious as to why people do what they do, why they feel the way they feel, whether it be myself, others that I've seen, family members, friends. But I never really thought where to explore that. So I spent a couple of years or so in the coaching world. Sounds strange as I'm 21, but you get in a little bit early. But then I realized there's even further I could go with that. There's so much more advancements within the mind and personal development as a human being. And I thought, okay, where can I come to be a part of this? Which has ultimately brought me into the world of mind acceleration and part of a wonderful organization, really as a forefront of that industry.
Wow. This is really good. Well, Alex, I know as a young entrepreneur, I believe you are self-employed. Within all this time, during the COVID period, a little bit of the economy setting back and setting forward, things like that. Does it bother you at all as a young entrepreneur?
It's like everything, it's definitely brought certain challenges. However, my mindset around that, because I've been self-employed, I'd say for almost 5 months now. So for a good amount of COVID, I was still working employed, where I kind of get home on an evening and then I work a full hour, further hours. But it's presented its challenges in terms of not opportunity or possibility per sense, but as a client basis and as people who are, as a community basis to grow that, people's mindsets, people's opportunity, people optimism. That's the challenge that it's mainly brought to me. Because as a result of this, people have been very much operating within a very fear base through this whole pandemic. So naturally, when operating within a place of fear, people then become very more sort of survivalist, deficit need within their thinking and navigating. So potentially offered a potential opportunity, something like that then gets very much, red flag. Where's all the possible things that could go wrong? Straying more away from pain than to seek sort of progress. So that's where the challenge has been as an individual, where I help people actually move from these mindsets. The hardest thing to do, more so than ever, has been to get people to realize that they can be so much more than what they are. That's really the biggest challenge that it has been.
Wow, that sounds really fascinating. From your experience that you've had when it comes to, understanding how people's mind works, so you have used that experience to create an opportunity as a young entrepreneur. So you have created an opportunity for other upcoming younger entrepreneurs in order to understand how their mind works.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to give you two tests right away here. Can you tell me what are the two methodologies you use when it comes to helping or motivating younger entrepreneurs that doesn't even know where to start, or that doesn't even understand if the business will survive? Can you tell me two methodologies that you use in order to empower them?
I love this question because I think about it every day. One has to be asking better quality questions. We don't ask ourselves enough questions, nor do we ask others that we have interest in helping enough, let alone the right questions. So I find that's really one of the first methodologies, which is important in any sense. Let's take a man at church in an objective point here, right? I ask someone, okay, great. So it's great to meet you. I noticed you seem like quite the religious person. Am I right in what I'm saying? And I say, yeah, sure. So I say, does that mean you go to church? They say, yeah, that's part of my religion. So I say, what are the reasons do you go to church? And they say, it's more of a safe space for me, right? So in this case, right, most would go, okay, great. This is what I think you should do, based on being the expert. No, in this case, I go, okay, so you say you feel safe in church. Does that imply outside of that environment, you don't feel like that? And they're going, I haven't thought of it like that. But the point is, it's asking them questions they've never thought to ask themselves, so they can then discover the answers that they didn't realize they had, and get better clarity in goals, their purpose, their sense of self, the origin of things, and really start to move forward with clarity. So that's definitely my first methodology. My second would be, sounds silly, but not to look down on people unless you're pulling them up. It's very extremely easy to fall in when you get a certain amount of experience, considered being the expert, to fall into a bit of an ego state, I've discovered. And part of what the ego does is says, great, I'm the teacher now, I don't need to learn anything more. Everybody listen to me. Which, you know, you may not be wrong, you are very experienced in as an individual, let's say, in what you were to do, but there's always more to learn. And one of the biggest amounts of growth that anybody does, whether it be in the mind or any other aspect, is through the learning, training, and communication of others. So I always, you know, keep an ego in check, but make sure to always remain a learner, but to be able to be a clear guide also to those who you're looking to be able to bring up.
Wow, that was a fabulous answer. Really good. Thank you. That was really good. I love the fact that you mentioned your first methodology is for them to ask questions.
Yeah.
And the second one, you mentioned, you know, you always make sure that you manage your ego.
Yes.
You know, you keep it on, like, checking it from time to time, and also re-educating yourself from time to time, investing in your mental faculty, which is your thought, your education, you know, educational path of it, so you can be able to use that skills to empower the upcoming, you know, entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That was insightful.
No worries.
So how do you usually build your confidence as a young entrepreneur? Because you're 21 here, 21. So, you know, with everything happening, you know, in the society, do you sometimes feel like, oh, I'm too young, who would listen to me? Does that affect your confidence at all?
Not at all, if I'm being completely honest. But the reason being is a big part of, you know, the training I go through, because not only do I train others, but I continue to accelerate my mind through such processes every day, is that the way we self-identify is a massive part of that. So I could self-identify as being, oh, I'm a young person, I'm 21, so that means I can't do this or that. You know, it's complete rubbish. It doesn't mean any of that, but it's, you know, it's a self-identification. So if I were to say, you know, I'm young, you know, I'm not very confident because I'm young, that would then be a self-enforced limitation that I then put on my mind, right? So I really, if I were to identify as anything, I'm a human being, ever growing, evolving, and, you know, helping others do the same to the best of my growing capacity.
Wow, that's really good. Thank you very much for that. My other question here is, what are the things that you do to stay motivated in order to reassure yourself that being a young entrepreneur, you know, you have to keep it going?
Yeah. Having an outcome.
Okay.
So it sounds so silly and so simple, but we often get caught up so quickly in a lot of the busy sort of side of things, and we set ourselves a big goal at the end, but then we lose sight of that because we forget to really continue visualizing. So I remind myself every day of the outcome. You know, when the three kings were trekking across the desert towards the baby Jesus with their gold, frankincense, and myrrh, they weren't wandering aimlessly. They had the North Star, their outcome being the boar king. So eventually they went on this big tyrannical sort of, you know, the treacherous journey to be able to get to this outcome. But what kept them going ultimately was knowing that they had that direction in the first place. And that's the same way I kind of carry through my sense of motivation within that philosophy very much.
Thank you very much, Alex. That was quite good. You have created this very platform that you use in helping other younger entrepreneurs. How do you inspire innovation with that? Through that, you know, through that platform which you have created, how do you inspire innovation and creativity for the upcoming entrepreneurs?
So one of the main aspects and core aspects really of what we have is community, as well as resources and other means of being able to make sustainable exponential income. The community side is important because we aren't, just somewhere where you buy an online course and don't really speak to anybody. It's everybody has their own vision. Everybody has their own skills. For example, I specialize in what I specialize in. We may have a marketing strategist who's part of the community, a graphic designer, a web developer, whatever it may be. That's a wondrous part, because not only are we developing as individuals our furthered skill or skills, but we're a part of a community where you think, great, I need a web developer for my website. I work with someone. We co-create and collaborate. That's the fundamental part, the ability to co-create and collaborate, because none of us are operating from a purely self-serving point. We all understand that we have something to offer, and that through ever growing that community and saying, a young person comes on board and says, wow, this is pretty cool. We say, we've got all the tools here to be able to help you start really hitting the ground running, and all the people who actually care about helping.
Wow. Thank you very much, Alex. That was quite good. My other thing is, how do you stay motivated?
How do I stay motivated?
Without being distracted with the side noise in the society. How do you keep it stay focused to keep yourself motivated and, without drifting away from what your goals are?
So you may or may not have heard of shiny object syndrome.
Oh, yes, I've heard about it before.
Yes, it's as creative minds, as curious minds, as entrepreneurs are, it's very easy to kind of get caught up in new opportunities. So I look at everything around me now that I am able to scale and develop. I see what has the most potential, and I see what I'm most passionate about. And I found the correlation with everything that I have around me as an opportunity or as a potential. And if two things out of all of those things that have those two factors, the potential and the passion there, I follow them ultimately first. So I don't spread myself too thin. I remain having that clear end goal, but I have the short-term goals as well, where it's allowing me to be able to keep developing the day-to-day processes. Because it's two sides. We've got the visualization, we've got the manifestation, and then you have the practical means of getting there. So really looking at what I have as the main potential and what to focus on first and dedicating to that is key, because through having the outcome and knowing that I have the means to do so, anything else that comes into play, it's almost sort of saying, okay, great, that's cool, I could get to that later on, but I'm halfway on this path. So if we're going to do it properly, we might as well.
Wow. Good. Thank you very much for that. I've got this burning question here. What do you think can easily distract younger entrepreneurs? What are the three things that can easily distract them, and how can we solve it?
The comparison to others and the need to do so. The idea of success being, you have to have this amount of money, you've got to get up at this time in the morning. Sure, they all play a little bit of a part, but ultimately, none of it really defines that success meaning. So don't worry about comparing yourself to others, because whether you do or not, that's not going to change your capacity to achieve what you want. So ultimately, it's just going to help you or pull you into this place of self-defeat, where you think, wow, I'm not doing what this person wants. I want to be a forensic psychologist, but here's my favorite rapper. I want his lifestyle. Different points, different pathways, Is it really what you want, or is it what you told you want? So don't worry about comparing yourself to others, because it won't make a difference ultimately. You still have that capacity. Be your own superhero.
Oh, love that finish.
The second thing I would have to say is start understanding and working past the fear of missing out. As entrepreneurs, we all think wow, okay. I notice this in my business partners. I'll come across something and I'll start developing it, and I'll think, wow, I want a piece of it. I'd love to be able to give it to everybody, but in these cases, there can often be reasons where, this is something you'd want to do for yourself. It could be a life purpose, a mission, something you've always wanted. So don't worry about missing out if that ever comes up, because if you're trying to constantly chase what is around us, we'll never get anywhere. Opportunity is around us 24/7, 365, every day of the year, if we really look at life that way. But if we constantly get attached to everything that presents itself to us, we'll end up in small pieces all around the world. So don't worry about missing out, because if you dedicate your time now, that means it's going to give you more time to do what you want to do later on. Yep. My third, I would have to say, and this is going to be a rather different turn, watch your language patterns. This is important within manifestation. So when we say something or verbalize something, it makes it 4 to 7 times more powerful, not only to ourselves, but others that may potentially be in the room. When we have a thought to ourselves, whether it be negative or positive in its polarity, we can keep that to ourselves and then work through that, and it will never come up again. And not tell anybody. But when we're in a room full of people, let's say we're having a conversation, we verbalize something, that's then implanted into their minds. So, you ever notice how you walk into a room full of positive people and then one negative person walks in and everybody seems to go negative. But then when it's a room full of negative people and one person walks in positive, it's a lot harder to get everybody to be positive. So understanding that nuance and being able to detach yourself from that and sort of say, okay, my language patterns, not only to others, but how I manifest. For example, I think can present potential doubt and uncertainty in the mind. I know can then enforce an ego saying, I know this, I know that, I know so much. I believe, again, can also stem a little bit of doubt, but also uncertainty in who you are. When you start to really get in touch with some of these, you can change, let's say, I can't to I can. I can't is the biggest one that we've all heard of. So that's the key thing here. Watch your language patterns. When I say I can't do something, it will make the task in front of me seemingly a lot harder. It isn't. It hasn't changed in its difficulty. It's still the same functions. But I've verbalized and manifested and set a rule for my unconscious that says, this is hard. So why not try and do the opposite?
Wow. That was really good. That is on point. Well done. I write a lot of motivational quotes as well. I just love it. So I just, I write bits and bobs. And from you answering those questions, I know you are right on point. Well done.
Thank you.
Right, I got just two points I need from here. How would you say a young entrepreneur should empower positive thinking? I just need 2 points that you would, recommend to a young entrepreneur or even entrepreneurs out there to, always, empower positive thinking within, because our thoughts are really powerful. So over to you, Alex.
So when empowering positive thinking, understanding where those thoughts come from is always a good starter. Once you understand where those negative thoughts come from, start to say, okay, what would the polar opposite of that be? And then straight towards that. Our thoughts are actually very much within our control, but it's often overwhelming sometimes. So remembering anything that isn't going to be progressive or serve you in any way, or you'll be able to learn from, really isn't worth the time. And then second of all, I would have to say, stop trying to control what you can't, and control what you can.
That's a good one.
You know, we often get so stressed out. It's one of the third biggest causes of stress, I'd say, is people's need to control what they cannot and self-defeating. So, you know, if something goes bad, you know, maintaining this positive thought pattern is often challenging. But if you can't control what happened, don't stress about it, because whether you stress about it or not, it's not going to change that trajectory. Start thinking a little bit more rationally and thinking, okay, great, critical. What's the second best outcome? What's the next best possible route, as opposed to trying to fix everything when you can't and ultimately self-sabotaging, getting into a little bit more. I'm more than happy to tell you a story around that. Happened quite recently.
Oh, please tell me. I love it. Mm-hmm.
So I'd say about 6-7 weeks ago now.
Okay.
I was sat on in my office, same office that I'm sat in right now, doing a little bit of work on my laptop, and I have a text on my phone from my Barclays, my bank, saying £15,000 loan has been taken out in your name. And I'm thinking, I didn't do that. That's slightly worrying. So at this point, right, this is a considerable amount of money. It was identity fraud, right? But you know, in this case, a lot of people would think, wow, this is, my life's over. What can they do more? You know, this is they've taken control of my whole life. What do? Panic more and more, try and move the money somewhere, which ultimately will result in, as soon as you as a person remove that money, there's nothing they can do to say that wasn't you then, because you've had the control. Self-sabotage. In this case, I thought, okay, this has happened. Almost panicked, but then I went downstairs and I called the bank up, and as soon as they picked up, I thought, wow, okay, no problem. I haven't got to worry now, because they know it's not me, and that's all that matters. So at this point, I thought, okay, what was the most logical thing to do? Second best outcome. I couldn't get the money back there and then, but I was able to get a case opened to be able to then get that investigated. The bank knew that wasn't me, so I now haven't got to pay anything. So at this point, I'm on hold for an hour and a half or so, waiting for the fraud team. They're being very attentive, and I'm more concerned about the god-awful music they have playing whilst I'm on hold than the actual case itself, right? But it sounds silly, but in that instantaneous moment, in a time of crisis, where it could have very easily fallen down into a negative spiral, I chose, okay, that's not going to change anything if I were to self-defeat. I thought the second best possible outcome was to then get critical, agile in my thinking, think strategically, and ultimately that was my outcome. So now we're coming towards the end of the investigation, and it's much more progressive than it could have been.
Wow. Wow, thanks for sharing a personal case study, you know, just for us to understand how things can happen and out of our control, and how to make sure we could always stay on top of it. Yeah, thank you very much, Alex. Alex, so where can people reach out to you?
So my main platform is Instagram. So that's really where I sort of operate as a bit of a center. And by all means, you can find me at theinfinitealex.jp. You can also find me on Clubhouse. I'm very active on Clubhouse every day, Monday to Friday, and even on the weekends, under the Co-Create A Better World Club. And in terms of finding our organization, where you can find that, you can find at www.cocreateabetterworld.org and Council for Human Development, where you can also find my second platform, which is Bankroll-Academy.net, and online, where it will be able to come up for the main page and all the means of being able to further understand what we do. You can also connect with me directly regarding webinars that we have running on a weekly basis as a bit of a presentation around this, which is where it costs nothing. You can jump on, register through email, and really explore that. It runs for about 40 minutes usually, and that will give you everything you need to know further regarding your interests as a young entrepreneur, maybe exploring the community.
Okay, wow, thank you, Alex. So do you offer like a complimentary consultation for younger entrepreneurs? Because you did mention that your services are tailored towards 18 years old to 25 younger entrepreneurs. So can you tell me, do you offer like a complimentary consultation for them just in case, and where can they find that?
Yes, so usually if they were to sort of connect with us, you can jump on with a call myself where we can start to get into it, explore what you possibly want from it, and a partner of mine also. So you can kind of really get a gist of who we are as a part of the community.
Okay. Thank you very much, Alex. So Alex, how about, these days, because we have a lot of things, going on around or happening around us. So what would you say to a younger entrepreneur or even grown-up entrepreneurs that are experiencing a bit of anxiety, maybe for one reason or the other, or expressing a little bit of depression, just something within that two things? What would you say to them?
I'd say depression is a perfect example of your mind telling you that it's fed up of being something you're not, because it's fed up of being able to hold up this act, this shell that is ultimately limiting it. Hence why that bubble often feels like it's getting a lot more constricted. Start releasing it. Start living a little bit more as you, who you want to become, not who you are now. And with anxiety, I'd say don't fear what hasn't happened or may not happen yet, but more specifically, do not fear what is inevitable, whether that be setbacks, whether that be failures, whether that be good and bad experiences, whether it be death itself, right? These inevitabilities are inevitable, not to be able to define our lives, but to put pinnacles and standpoints within our journey ahead to say, okay, great, this is what I can do within what I have now. Because at the end of the day, now I don't know about you guys, but I want to get to the end of my life saying, well, that was bloody worth it. As opposed to living in fear of a lot of these inevitabilities and then ultimately getting to the end of my life, having died in this life, but still living, breathing, seeing, believing, or not so for that matter, through fearing those inevitabilities.
Wow. Thank you very much, Alex. That was quite good. I love those words. Thank you for your support, and thank you for coming on board here to come and use your story to inspire our community and to utilize your skills to also empower our community. Because we always appreciate when we see people that tells us true life story and that uses their own life story as the case study. That is really powerful. It brings in more connection and reality of life. So thank you very much for your time, that you've spent with us here.
It's been my absolute pleasure, and thank you again for having me also. Likewise.
Okay. Thank you. And so hope to see you sometime soon again.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye. Cheers. Goodbye. I hope you've enjoyed this beautiful session today. We had Alex over there, and he told us a lot of things about how he became a younger entrepreneur and how his skills has helped him to create a sector for the other younger entrepreneurs as well. So let me know below how you found this video. Like, how did you find it? Is it interesting? Let us know. And if you have any other comments, or say if there is a specific topic you would like me to talk about, please feel free to send me a DM or you leave it down at the comment section. So thank you very much once again, and hope to see you next time. By the way, do not forget to subscribe to our channel, and also feel free to share this content with people that you feel it will resonate with. Thank you once again, and do have a pleasant day. Cheers.